Kempton, and this is the news for the Economic Development Group. Last week, I talked about the impact of the war in Ukraine on African economies vis-a-vis agriculture. And today I'm going to expand on how the war in Ukraine and the ensuing sanctions against Russia are going to affect economic development in Africa. Specifically, I want to talk about Russia's foreign direct investment in Africa, which has been mostly concentrated in Northern and Central Africa. In terms of money spent, Russia is not as big a player as China or the United States. It had a far weaker domestic economy, even before the most recent round of sanctions, but it has found beneficial trading agreements with those countries with which it can find common political cause, including other authoritarian nations. Private Russian investment in much of Central Africa is in no small way intertwined with security entities such as the purported mercenaries in the Wagner Group. Some African nations, including Kenya, Gabon, Ghana, and Nigeria, have made vocal declarations of support for the sovereignty of Ukraine and joined in on sanctions against Russia. More authoritarian nations have sided with Russia, however, and South Africa, the continent's third largest economy, has taken an explicitly neutral stance. In part, this may be because of growing Russian investment in recent decades, as well as the military presence Russia and its allies have exploited in various proxy wars in the region. In terms of economics, according to Nasmat Gabramosi, Russia has invested around $190 million in developing special economic zones in Egypt's Port Said alone. The same week that the war in Ukraine began, representatives of Sudan's junta arrived in Moscow to discuss Russia's gold mining concessions in Sudan. In 2020, African countries spent a total of $4 billion in agricultural products from Russia. Disentangling these economic ties will take a long time. If the Russian economy collapses before then, many developing economies in Africa will feel the repercussions. Furthermore, because the war has made European countries wary of remaining dependent on Russian oil, some have turned their attention to sourcing oil from a prospective tunnel which could be built across North Africa. Nigeria, for instance, has large oil reserves and could benefit from the skyrocketing price of oil in recent weeks. However, it is worth noting that any expanded reliance on non-renewable energy will contribute adversely to climate change, which has a disproportionately large impact on developing economies and, for reasons of geography, much of sub-Saharan Africa. So the war in Ukraine is going to continue to have an impact on developing economies throughout the world, and specifically in North and Central Africa. And here at the Economic Development Group, we'll keep you updated on that story as it develops. One last note before I go. In the first weeks of the war, as most foreign citizens evacuated from Kyiv, there were horrific reports that systemic racism among police officers and soldiers guarding the Ukrainian-Polish border was so pervasive that Black Ukrainians were being singled out and prevented from reaching safety. Prior to February, about 20% of foreign students studying in Ukraine were from Africa, including 8,000 Moroccan students, 4,000 Nigerian students, 3,500 Egyptian students, and several thousand Ghanaians. An Algerian student was killed by Russian airstrikes in Kharkiv in the first weeks of the war. Since then, most of these students have been able to flee to Poland or return to the countries of their citizenship, but others remain trapped and many are traumatized. If you're interested in learning more about the experience of Africans in Ukraine or getting involved to help refugees fleeing the war, check out NYU Paris' resource guide, linktr.ee/NYU Paris Solidarity. Now, on to the meeting.